Let's practice English with Class 7 book, Chapter 4. A very interesting story, The Frog and the Ox. Frog is much smaller than ox. One frog, two frogs. But one ox, five oxen. Oxen. O-X-E-N, oxen, five oxen. So here you have the frog. It's talking about a particular frog, and it's also talking about a particular ox. No other ox, only this ox and this frog. So a big frog once lived in a small pond. A pond is much smaller than a tank. A tank is much smaller than a lake. A lake is much smaller than a river. A river is much smaller than a Bay of Bengal. A bay is much smaller than a sea. A sea is much smaller than an ocean. There are 7 oceans. The largest one is the Pacific, and the deep one, even the ocean is also deep. It has some contradiction, but basically the Atlantic is the deepest. The deepest part of the Atlantic is 8 kilometers and 600 meters. Can you imagine? More than 8.5 kilometers deep. I'm talking about the deepest part of the Atlantic. So the Padma, the Atlantic, the Caspian Sea, the Bay of Bengal, right? The Padma, the Meghna, the Jamuna, like that. So a small pond, very small. A pond is much smaller than a tank, and still it's not a big pond, it's a small pond, and there lived a frog. Because he was the biggest creature in the pond, so as the pond is very small, the frog thinks it is a very big animal. But compared to an ox, a frog is much smaller, and the frog wants to become even larger, bigger, tiny, more giant than the ox. And this is the problem that has happened to the frog. Let's go more about it. Because he was the biggest creature in the pond, the frog decided he must also be the biggest thing in the world. So you have done something great, and there are many other people who did even greater, but you want to be even greater than anyone else in the world. So the frog is very small, but it lives in the small pond, and it thinks it is a very big animal. And when it saw an ox, the frog thought that it could become the largest, the biggest, the most giant animal in the world. This is boastful. I am proud of Bangladesh. I am boastful of my country because I was born in Bangladesh. This is good. I am proud of my father. I am proud of my mother. I am proud of my countrymen. I am proud of the country. That's very good. It's not pride. I'm proud of Bangladesh. Bangladesh is my pride. This is good. But I should not say I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of you, friend. You have done something great. We have to highlight others, right? But in terms of a language, in terms of a country, in terms of parents, you should be proud of. So proud and pride. And here the frog decided he must also be the biggest thing, the largest thing in the world, as he sunned himself on his lily pad. So you have lily, right? You have a special kind of flower on water surface, so lily. And the frog was on the leaf of a lily, and it was thinking it could become the largest animal in the world. He puffed out his chest with pride. Puffed, right? Puff. So you smoke, that is one puff. Puff. right? Puffed rice, when you have made something different, it is swollen puffed rice, right? Puffed rice. So you have a puff, right? All right. So he puffed out his chest with pride. No one anywhere is bigger than I am. The frog thinks that no one else is as big as the frog. This is a foolish thinking. It thought it is the biggest. It is bigger than any other thing. That's false boastfulness. One day a huge ox came to drink at the pond. So a huge ox came near the pond, and later he tried to drink at the pond. The frog was amazed. Oh, such a big animal. I wanted to become the largest animal in the world, but it found that, even I have seen something so giant, so big, so huge, right? The frog was amazed. It was surprised that, such a big animal, is it possible to become even larger than the ox? But he refused to be impressed. It doesn't matter. Even when the ox is much bigger than I am, much more giant than I am, much more mammal than I am, still the frog did not lose its hope. The frog was very much confident that it would even become bigger than the ox. So that's why the frog said that it was not impressed. I suppose you think you're big. The frog called out to the ox. So you're very big, don't worry. I can become even bigger than I am, but I want you to know that I can make myself just as big as you are, or as you. So the ox did not reply. He just kept on drinking. If you don't believe me, shouted the frog, just watch. So it was boastful. The ox did not care because it's nothing. How can a frog be larger? So if someone is large, it does not become boastful. When you are small, this is called inferiority complexity. A superior person usually doesn't have superiority complexity. An inferior person becomes more and more this problematic, right? So the frog took a deep breath. Breathe in, breathe out. So breathe in, breathe out. Right? So the frog took a deep breath, and the frog became larger, tried to become as big, as large as is possible, and the frog blew himself up to twice his usual size. The frog became even double. But does it mean that the frog is getting bigger than the ox? It's not possible. You cannot try what is not possible. So, but still, the ox paid no attention to him. It doesn't matter. Why should an ox go for the competition against the frog? Nothing to do it. So, that's not big enough for you? Croaked the frog. Oh, I am double, right? I'm big. Don't you think that I'm so big? Oh, croaked. So the frog makes a sound that is croak. Very well, I'll make myself bigger still. He blew himself up even bigger, even larger, even more giant. Again, the ox said nothing. The ox doesn't care. Whatever. The ox doesn't care. He simply turned away. The ox did not care, turned away, and headed for the other side of the pond. On the other side of the pond, he had had enough to drink. This made the frog furious. Sometimes it happens. A girl is beautiful and every boy wants to be in contact with her, and she is so boastful. Oh, every boy likes me. But one day, a simple boy, but he doesn't care, the girl, and then she becomes furious. Such a tiny boy, such a simple ordinary boy, and the boy shows no attention towards me, no care. I'll show you a lesson. And what happens, that simple boy, because of ignorance, because of indifference, the girl becomes more and more furious. At one point she falls in love with the boy. The same thing happens here. Again the ox said nothing. He simply turned away, headed for the other side of the pond. He had had enough to drink. This made the frog furious. Taking an enormous breath, enormous, big breath, he blew and blew himself up until he burst. You are blowing up a balloon, and the balloon becomes larger, more inflated, and at one point what will happen? It will get burst. The problem solved. Alright, and that was the end of the big frog in the small pond. So you should not compete with something that's not possible for you. So that's the lesson. You should be boastful of your country. You should be proud of your parents. You should be proud of great people. You should not be proud of yourself. Be moderate. Behave yourself what you deserve. You should behave. You should not behave in a way that doesn't suit you. You have to behave in a way that suits you. That's very much important for you. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.